It was a monster. We were sunk by a hairy green giant.
Henceforth, the official designation for the monster from the sea will be Green Gargantua. Monster of the mountain, Brown Gargantua.
If I were going to tell a lie, I'd think of something more believable than a Gargantua.
People, LP 2000 right back at you with another video. Yes, welcome back to another edition of Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews. Yes, I'm hitting y'all off with another video. Yeah, it's kind of like Christmas because normally I would drop a video, especially the way my schedule's been going lately. I would drop a video, let's say today, and I probably won't do another one for like another 2 or 3 weeks. But I did find some time on my hands recently, and I figured, you know what? I just did the X Plus Gigantic series, Shin Godzilla purple version, whatever. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do another one. I'm going to pump out another video for y'all. And as you can see here by the green guy and the brown guy, I got a good video lined up for y'all today. So without further ado, let's dive head first into this awesome model kit review for today. And today we take a look at the Billiken model kits, 30 centimeter of both the green guy and the brown guy, the Kaiju brothers with anger management issues. Of course, I'm talking about Sanda and Gaira from the epic film from 1966, Frankenstein's monster Sanda versus Gaira, also known as the War of the Gargantuas. And as you can see here, I have the beautiful kits. Oh yes, they are so beautiful. Man, they're amazing. They are so amazing. You know how I do things around here. Let's get up close and personal with the packaging and the box before we go into the Kaiju brothers themselves. And here's a picture of the box. Billiken kits, and you know what? I'll go into this more later, but this is I'm not new to Billiken kits. I have a few Billiken kits in my collection. Again, I'll go to that momentarily. I've had some Billiken kits in the past that I've since sold off, so I'm very familiar with Billiken. And the packaging here looks really great, with both Sanda and Gaira on the cover. Has the Japanese name, Sanda and Gaira. And of course, War of the Gargantuas, whatever. So great packaging on the box. And because these figures, these model kits are so great, I'm gonna keep the packaging. Again, I'm at a point where I need to trash as much packaging as I can to make room for new stuff that's coming in. But I'm willing to make an exception for that packaging. And plus, I love this movie and these monsters so much, But the packaging is great. So let's get that out the way and let's focus on the monsters themselves. Yes, once again, ladies and gentlemen, these are the Billiken model kits, 30 centimeter size, of both Sanda and Gaira, the Brown Gargantua and the Green Gargantua from War of the Gargantuas. And here's the backstory about me getting these model kits. These model kits, I want to say, came up for pre-order, I I think around March of last year, 2021. Then they were released, or they were dropped, I want to say, in June. And at the time, my money was tied up with X Plus and other things, whatever. So I really didn't have the money to go after these guys. You would think I would, considering that I am a huge Gargantua fan. Even my great friend and fellow co-host on Collect All Monsters, David he would tell me, kind of like with the KOC 64, he was like, man, I know you're a huge fan of the Gargantuas. You need to go after this set. And I was like, again, I didn't have the money for it. But I was like, you know what? I'll just live vicariously through y'all. You know what I'm saying? For those who did order it and was going to get this set. But then I saw this picture on Facebook, and that picture sold me. Seeing these kits painted like that, I was like, you know what? I got to find them. I got to find them at some point. Unfortunately, these kits were sold out. You couldn't find them anywhere. I mean, of course, you could find them in the aftermarket, but again, they were horribly overpriced, as with everything, Kaiju collectible-wise, whatever, because they don't make a huge quantity of these, quite frankly, like, kits, X Plus figures, whatever. And again, I didn't have the money at the time because it was tied up. My money was tied up elsewhere. So I chalked it up as a loss, even though I was kicking myself in the foot for not going after these guys initially. Then they made a second batch. A second run came out of these guys. I want to say November of last year. Now, mind you, the first batch, the first set that came out earlier that year in the summer, June, they were both painted green and brown. Gaira had a flat green color of the vinyl kit, as well as and Sanda had a flat brown or a beige brown for him, and of course these are model kits, unassembled, unpainted. You have to build it and paint it yourself and blah blah blah. But when the second batch came out in November, for some reason Gaira was somewhat of a midnight blue, and I think Sanda was more so like a maroon brownish red for some reason. But again, they're vinyl kits, so you can paint them however you want, you know what I mean? And since I don't have any type of expertise to build and paint these things, there was another reason why I was kind of hesitant to go after them, even though I wanted them so bad. Because, even though I am friends with so many talented Kaiju artists in our community, of course, David Abdopko, Mark Sanyang, Burley Vane, Ron McKay, John LeGrand, Steve Servajoli, so many people out there that are talented and just awesome artists that can build and paint these things and have them look exactly how the Kaiju look in the film. And again, all those people were in high demand, you know what I mean? And I just, again, the stars were not aligned for me to get this guy. But I have been on someone of a model kit shopping spree, if you want to call it that, ever since I got my KOC 1964 Godzilla kit. That really opened my eyes to, you know what, I'm going to invest more into model kits now. I'm kind of shifting my focus when it comes to collecting. Of course, I will always be an X Plus supporter, because that's my primary focus, right? But now I'm starting to shift more into model kits, where I want to get a cool model kit, and I know enough people where I can say, hey, if I throw you some money or some bucks, you mind building and paint it for me? So that is really no longer an issue for me anymore. So more so, I'm going to be going after more so model kits now, And speaking of Billiken, for what I understand, Billiken kits are great kits, but since they're vinyl kits, they're great kits for people who are beginners, who want to start out building and painting these things, you know what I'm saying? I've been told by some people that really, if you want to start somewhere, start with Billiken kits, you know what I'm saying? Because they're vinyl, and if you make a mistake, you can always correct it, better with vinyl. Because if you try resin, it's kind of hard if you make a mistake to try to correct something on a resin piece. So Billiken kits, from what I understand, are great for beginners, but their sculpts are really, really, really good. Of course, you have the Gargantuas here. Of course, I mentioned I have a few Billiken kits in my collection. And of course, I have the 1965 30cm Godzilla kit, which looks awesome in my opinion. I have the 30cm Mecha Godzilla 1975 from Terra Mecha Godzilla, and that kit is awesome. I have the 1992 30cm version of Godzilla from Godzilla and Mothra. Excuse me, Godzilla versus Mothra. I'm not saying that whack, lame title, but that kit looks amazing. And of course, they brought out a Mechanic Kong, they brought out a Jet Jaguar, They've done a 62 Godzilla, a 64 Godzilla, a 54 Godzilla, a 1967 version of Gauss from Gamma vs. Gauss. And their sculpts are great, but as time goes on, because these are the most recent kits outside of one that I'll talk about later on, it's like the sculpts have been getting better and better and better. And again, I missed out on them twice. First in the summer and late last year in November. Summer of last year and late last year in November. But towards the tail end of the year, I want to say like maybe December. I think first week in December, I happened to go on eBay and I found these kits. Not only did I find the kits, but they were painted like this. So everything was pretty much was already done for me. I'm like, you know what? I'm not missing out on this. So I paid for it. I got them, and that's how I got these awesome, amazing kits of both Sanda and Gaira. And I know I talk a lot of trash when it comes to eBay, and I think a lot of it is justified, quite frankly. It's just my opinion. I think it's justified because a lot of people, they take these pieces. Some of the people, they buy stuff for cheap online overseas, and then they try to flip them over here in the West, and they use eBay to do it, and they overcharge what these figures really should go for. You know, a lot of people want to take advantage of people's ignorance or lack of knowledge on what these things are really priced. You know what I'm saying? But this was a good eBay story because, again, I got what I was looking for. They were both built and painted already. So basically everything I wanted was right here, all in this one auction, you know. So I bought it, and here they are. And again, I'm so happy. Unfortunately, I forgot who the vendor was, and I'm not sure if the vendor who was selling these kits is the same person that actually built and painted them. So I don't really know who built and painted them. But by the looks of them, you would think David Dopko did it, or Steve Saragioli did it, or Ron McKay did it, or John LeGrand, or any of these talented artists that are in our community. You would think one of them had their hands in these pieces. But again, I don't know who they are. So whoever you are, if you're out there, if you're watching, thank you. Thank you so much, because again, I'm a huge Gargantua fan. Shout out to Rebel 7, John Bellotti Jr. I'm a huge Gargantua fan. It is my second most favorite kaiju film of all time. If I had to rank them in a list of Godzilla, Gamera, and, you know, whatever, War of the Gargantuas would be my second most favorite kaiju film of all time. And to have just basically perfect representations of the monsters is great. Now, of course, I have a few X Plus versions, you know, X Plus sets. I have a few versions of the Gargantuas courtesy of X Plus, which you'll see in the one and only size comparison later on. But I might as well say it right now. These are the best ones that I have in my collection. The only issue I have is with the size, but we'll go into that momentarily. But that's the backstory with me getting these awesome figures. And you know what? Let's start off. Which one should I start off with? Let's start off with Gaira. Because Gaira is admittedly my favorite Gargantua for obvious reasons. I love villains. I love villains unapologetically. I love more so the bad guys in these stories. And in my opinion, Gaira is the most despicable. He's the greatest kaiju villain of all time. With all due respect to King Ghidorah, with all due respect to Mechagodzilla 74, with all due respect to the GMK Godzilla, in my opinion, Gaira is the greatest kaiju villain of all time. You know what I'm saying? And the way whoever who painted this guy did such a great job with Gaira. And I think I heard from David Dopko, because again, he got this set. I think he built and painted a set for a client. I think he has one for himself. I forgot which one he said he had trouble painting, because you have to get the paints just right, because these monsters, of course, they're humanoid, but they have scales and fur. More so, Gaira has scales and fur, and to get the right shade of green on his hair, on his body, on his face, on his hands, it's just kind of hard. You really have to know what you're doing, you know what I'm saying? So I forgot which one he said he had an issue with, that had trouble getting the colors right. I want to say Gaira, but I think it was Sanda. But either way, to get the colors right, like I said, the various shades of green on Gaira, that's an amazing feat in and of itself, you know what I mean? Because it's not just one shade of green. Because in various scenes of the movie, there were times he was light green, he was dark green, because you saw the Gargantuas in both nighttime scenes and daytime scenes. They were on land, they were on water. So the colors kind of fluctuate on the suit on any given scene, right? So to apply that to a model kit, that takes expertise. That's why when I saw the listing on eBay, I was like, no way. There's no way. There's got to be a catch to it, you know what I mean? but there wasn't. And again, this is a stunning representation of Gaira. I mean, I love it. Like I said, you have the different shade of green on his hair, his face. You know, you have more so the red coloring on his mouth because he is a bloodthirsty monster. The yellow on his teeth. Ugh, God almighty. I love it, though. I love it. You know, the scales on his body, the various greens, the dark shading here and there to give it more depth. The dark shading on his toes, you know, whatever. He looks great from the front, from the side, from the back. Oh, my God. This is a great representation. In my opinion, a stunning representation, a perfect representation of Gaira. Now, I mentioned somewhat of an issue with these Gargantuas. And I wouldn't say it's an issue per se, but it's something that's very noticeable. And if you notice between the two Gargantuas before we get into Sanda, Gaira is pretty much the same size as Sanda, and that's not how it was in the film. Of course, Gaira is the little brother, or the offspring, the Japanese version of Sanda. He is somewhat shorter, somewhat smaller than Sanda. But don't get it twisted. Just because he's the smaller of the two, he is the most dangerous of the two. Because he is evil, he is sadistic, he is bloodthirsty, he's just savage, you know what I'm saying? So don't let the size differential fool you when you watch the film. But when you see these Gargantua kids, they're virtually the same size, and that's not how it was in the film. And I don't see that as an issue, but at the same time, it is noticeable. As a matter of fact, I don't mind if Gaira is kind of like beefed up here. Can you imagine if he was like that in the film? He probably would have been more of a threat if he was almost the same size as Sanda here, but it still didn't matter because they still had a great fight, even though they were different in size in the film. But I do like the upgrade in size when it comes to Gaira here, when it comes to the Billiken kits here. But again, the size is great. The coloring, the various shades of green of on Gaira looks really awesome. Like I said, the hair, the face, the scales on his body, the black shading here and there on his toes and on his armpits, on the back, you know, whatever. Again, a perfect representation of the villain of the film, Gaira the Green Gargantua. Now let's go to the protagonist, his brother, who has the unfortunate responsibility of trying to rein his brother in. Of course, I'm talking about the sympathetic, obviously awesome and amazing Sanda, or the Brown Gargantua. And again, I think David did say that he had trouble with Sanda the most, if I'm remembering that correctly. Either way, getting the various colors of green or shades of green perfect on whatever place you want to put on Gaira, that's an amazing feat in and of itself. And again, you got to know what you're doing. But I think Sanda, it's kind of harder with Sanda. And, you know, you have the light shades of brown. You know, you have some light beiges here and there. Of course, you got some dark coloring on his toes, you know, whatever. No different than the green, at least the paint application on Gaira, right? It's the same thing with Sanda. And Sanda looks great. He looks so amazing. And honestly, between the two, you're probably wondering which of the Gargantuas do I love more. Now character-wise, I will always choose Gaira. I love Gaira. But between the two Gargantua's Billiken kids here, honestly, I think I'm going to go with Sanda. I think Sanda is the better looking one of the two. Don't get me wrong. Gaira looks great, but I think Sanda looks a tad bit better. Because again, the different colors of brown and beige coloring on Sanda here, it looks breathtaking. It really looks good. God almighty, man, Sanda looks amazing. And I never thought that would be the case, because when I ordered them again online, you know, they both look amazing, and I just assumed that once I got them in my hands, I will gravitate more towards Gaira, right? That's normally how it is whenever I do get a set of the Gargantuas. But when I opened up Sanda, I was like, wow. I really was floored. I really was impressed. I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry, Gaira, but I kind of like your brother more. Just a little bit more. You know, but again, whoever who painted these kits, you did a phenomenal job. In my opinion, in my collection right now, these Gargantua stand as like the best ones in my collection. The only issue, if you want to call it an issue, more so of a nitpicky issue, is just the size, because it's not how it was in the film. But I'm able to forgive that because you did an awesome job with the paint application and building of these awesome model kits of the Gargantuas, you know. So that's pretty much it, you know, up close and personal with the both Brown and Green Kaiju brothers with anger management issues, you know what I'm saying? This is great. This is great. And if you do want this set of the Gargantuas, I think the second set that came out in November that had, you know, the weird red brownish vinyl for Sanda and the midnight blue for Gaira, I think they're all on eBay right now. I think there is a domestic vendor from what I saw a couple hours before I came up here to do this video. There are a couple of the original ones, you know, with the green vinyl for Gaira, excuse me, and the more yellowish brownish color of Sanda here. And I think they're overseas in Japan. But still, they're out there. So again, if you're able to build and paint model kits expertly, you know what I'm saying, and you want this set of the Gargantuas, go on eBay right now. Again, I got these guys through eBay, and that's a cool eBay story, even though a lot of times I kind of bash eBay for having a whole bunch of rapists out there that want to take advantage of people in the hobby. And they're still out there. I mean, don't get that twisted. They haven't gone away. But there are times where you can find a good story, or you can find a good product on eBay for a good price, and these Gargantuas are living proof of that. So again, 10 out of 10. I love these guys, and I present to you the 30cm Billiken model kits of both Sanda and Gaira from War of the Gargantuas. And speaking of War of the Gargantuas, and again, I mentioned I have a few other sets of the Gargantuas courtesy of X Plus. So let me bring them all in for the one and only size comparison. Let's see how all the Gargantuas I have in my collection look in this one and only size comparison. So let's do that, ladies and gentlemen, right now. Okay, folks, here's the first and only size comparison. And yes, we have a Gargantua family reunion. Which is technically what it is, because they're all brothers, right? So technically a Gargantua family reunion. And you know what? Just like any other family reunion, I can guarantee a fight will break out. All right, let's go ahead and introduce these fellas. All right, of course, from the far left, on the screen, you have the X Plus 25cm. I think it's called the version 2 of the Gargantuas, and that's based off, you know, remember that I guess the poster of the film where, you know, Gaira is in midair, he's about to jump on Sanda, and Sanda's at the bottom preparing to catch him or engage him when he comes crashing down. So that was a cool set. And of course you have, you know, the Billiken Gargantuas in the back, you know, the men of the hour. In the middle right there, in the middle you have the 25cm version 1 set of the Gargantuas, where you can actually interchange the limbs on the Gargantuas, and you can pose them separately, or individually, I should say, or you could bring them together and have this combat pose. That's really cool. That's really cool. Man, I'm glad I have that set. And of course, to the far right, I have the 30cm Wonderfest version of the Gargantuas. I forgot what year that Wonderfest, what Wonderfest they're from. But that was a cool set. You know, kind of like a Holy Grail sorts in a way. So basically, I have 4 sets of the Gargantuas, of the Gargantua brothers, and they're all awesome. But my favorite ones, you're probably wondering which one's my favorite. Again, it's probably going to be the Billiken because of the paint job. Now, the paint jobs on the X Plus versions, they're phenomenal. I'm not taking anything away from them, but the Billikens just take it a step further. You know what I'm saying? And that's awesome. That's awesome in and of itself. When you have something that has great paint jobs, or something that's really cool or great about something, but yet something else comes along and takes it to another level where it's better. And again, the Billiken kits kind of do that, you know. So again, who painted these kits, again, if you're out there, thank you so much. You did a phenomenal job. I won't go more into this comparison here because I'm planning on doing a side project on Collect All Monsters, where I go more into detail about the differences and the pros and cons of having each set, you know, of the Billikens, and of course the X Plus version of the Gargantuas. So please stay tuned for that. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I know I'm going to do it at some point. So be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, this is great. All right, so let's go to the final commentary portion of the video, and we'll wrap up my final thoughts on the Billiken Gargantuas. I have to do that in a hurry because I want to break these figures apart before a fight breaks out. All right, so let's go to that final commentary portion of the video right now. Okay, folks, I'm back with my final thoughts of the Billiken 30cm model kits of both the Green Gargantua and the Brown Gargantua, of course, Sanda and Gaira from War of the Gargantuas. My God, 10 out of 10. They are amazing. They are perfect. Like I said, the only nitpick I would say is the fact that Gaira is a little bit bigger than what he should be to be size accurate to the size of the monster in the film compared to Sanda. But aside from that, this is great. And again, I'm able to forgive that upscale in size for Gaira because the paint jobs are flawless. The paint jobs are amazing. They're tremendous. They're brilliant. Again, I don't know who did it, but again, judging by the level of expertise or paint application that was applied to both these two, from the various shades of brown and beige, coloring, the way they were all mixed together on Sanda, as well as the various shades of green that was mixed together perfectly on Gaira. Again, you would think David Dopko did it, or Steve Savajoli did it, or Ron McKay did it, or John LeGrand did it, or Mark Sang-Yang did it. You know what I mean? And I'm speechless. Like, I'm really speechless because, again, you saw in the size comparison that the S Plus versions of the Gargantuas are amazing. The paint application applied to them is tremendous. You know what I'm saying? But when you compare the Billikens, at least this particular set of the Billikens up against the S Plus versions, the Billikens are just a level above all that. You know what I'm saying? Nothing against them, but still, you have to call it, you know, the way it is. And to me, I think the enriched detail of the paint applications on both Gargantuas of the Billikens is better than the S Plus versions. But still, I still love the S Plus. Don't get that twisted. But these are great. You know what I'm saying? So again, you can find these on eBay right now, like I said. And if you're able to build and paint these things yourself, great. If not, you can go to one of the Kaiju artists in our community. They're not hard to find on Facebook. Like I said, David Arab Dopko, Mark Sang-Yang, Burley Vang, Ron McKay, John LeGrand, Steve Savajoli. You know, hit them up. You know, I'm sure all of them are in high demand, but all you gotta do is hit them up, and there'll be a slight fee, of course, to build and paint these things for you. But all you gotta do is ask, and the worst they can do is say no. But if they say yeah, then you got yourself a quality product on your hands, especially if you're a huge fan of the Gargantuas. You know what I'm saying? And speaking of what's dropping now in regards to Billiken, something else that came out in the same year that this film came out, Damagen. They are doing a 30-minute version of Damagen. Billiken has just dropped the kit of Damagen. I think he just dropped like the last week in March. He came up for a pre-order, I want to say, earlier this year in January. And now I think they're starting to drop in retailers' hands. So again, if you're a huge fan of Damagen and you want a good, almost perfect representation of Damagen, then you can always go after that kit and hire somebody to build it, paint it for you if you can't paint it yourself. So Billiken, they're coming out strong. You know, they always been coming out strong with their sculpts. Again, they're designed more so for beginners. And even though they're not resin or more high-end type of quality pieces like Tees Fat Dough, KOC, or whatever, they're still cool nonetheless. And these Gargantuas are living examples of that. Proof enough right here. Now, of course, this is the part of the video where I would talk glowingly or just talk about the movie that involves said figures. And you already know, I love Boy the Gargantuas. I have covered this film so many different times on my channel. Upwards, downwards, backwards, sideways, and it's always been good. So I'm not going to bore you with that because I got plenty of the videos in the archives of my channel where I talk about the film. But I will say this, that like between the two versions of the film, the Japanese version, like I said, Frankenstein's monster, Sanda vs. Gaira, or the American version, War of the Gargantuas. Between the two, I actually enjoyed the American version more. Now, by and large, when it comes to the Japanese versions of these films, I always go after the Japanese versions. I always believe that the Japanese version of these films, untouched, how they were presented in their natural form, in their original form, are the better films. You know, and there's a lot of cases where you can point to. You know what I'm saying? But in this case, kind of like King Kong vs. Godzilla, or Godzilla 2000, or Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, or even the original, Godzilla 54, I actually prefer Godzilla King of the Monsters 1956. And those are some rare examples that the Americanizations of these films are actually better. You know what I'm saying? Now, the reason why I prefer the American version, because they present the monsters as brothers, whereas the Japanese version, they're basically offspring. They're basically monsters that were spawned from the original Frankenstein from the previous film in the previous year, Frankenstein Conquers the World. But in the Japanese version, especially in the American version, there are vague references between the two films. War of the Gargantuas, like I said, vaguely referenced Frankenstein Conquers the World. And if you didn't watch Frankenstein Conquers the World, you could look at War of the Gargantuas as like a standalone film. But for me, because the references are so vague, I look at these two films Frankenstein Conquers the World and War of the Gargantua was kind of like the Cloverfield trilogy, at least the first two. You know, you had the original Cloverfield, then you had the sequel, 10 Cloverfield Lane. And you would think by watching 10 Cloverfield Lane that it'll be just like the first Cloverfield, you know what I'm saying? And it really isn't. It deals in sci-fi. You know, they both have a sci-fi type of message to both films, as well as the third film, which I heard was a dumpster fire, but I'm not going there right now. But I think the term for Cloverfield was meant to signify strange phenomenon, or like I said, science fiction. You know what I'm saying? Just because the first one features a giant monster, and the second one doesn't, but it features aliens. Still, the theme of Cloverfield is like strange phenomenon, or like I said, science fiction. And I kind of look at Frankenstein Conquers the World and War of the Gargantuas the same way, just because they deal with the Frankenstein character. But the Gargantuas, they don't look like Frankenstein. The only similarity to Frankenstein that the Gargantuas have in terms of physical appearance is their head. Just the shape of their heads. You know, the way their heads are really like enlarged with big foreheads and all that good stuff. But the rest of the body, it don't look like Frankenstein. Now, both Gargantuas have characteristics of the original Frankenstein from Frankenstein Conquers the World. Like Sanda, like the original Frankenstein, he is very sympathetic towards humanity. He has seen the good in humanity, so he doesn't see humanity as a food source like his brother. You know what I'm saying? He likes to live in seclusion up in the mountains like the original Frankenstein did. You know what I'm saying? He has a relationship with one of the protagonists in the film of War of the Gargantua, like the Frankenstein did in Frankenstein Conquers the World, right? Then you have Gaira. And Gaira, like Frankenstein, loves to eat meat. He's a carnivore. He's a flesh eater. You know what I'm saying? The original Frankenstein was like that. We've seen the original Frankenstein can survive for extended periods of time in water. Remember that scene where he attacks the boat, or at least he rocks the boat in Frankenstein Conquers the World? We see him rise up out of the water, then we see him submerge in the water. Kind of like Gaira, who his primary environment is underwater. You know what I'm saying? So you see characteristics of Frankenstein embedded into both Gargantuas, but still at the end of the day, because the references are so vague, I prefer the American version to this film. And again, I think it's more tragic when you look at these monsters as brothers and they have a breakdown of affairs, which leads to their climatic death match towards the end of the movie. And I also think the music is better. They incorporate some stop music in the American version. Now, don't get me wrong, the Ifukube score in the Japanese version is great, and they incorporated some of Ifukube's tracks in the American version, but like their final fight scene music in the Japanese version, I don't really particularly care for. That's why I lean more towards the American version. In terms of the fact, like I said, that they're more so presented as brothers in the American version, and I like the music better in the American version. So those are primarily the two reasons why I will favor the American version, but still, don't get me wrong, the Japanese version is great too, but between the two, I prefer the American version. So if you can find War of the Gargantuas on DVD, I think it came out in a double bill with the original Rodan. I forgot who did it. The name escapes me, but I think you can still find them out there online, because it has the original version of both the Japanese and American version of the original Rodan in 1956, and it has the Japanese and the American version of War of the Gargantuas, and you can find that DVD double bill set. Please go after it and really enjoy both versions of the films. But for this fan right here, he prefers the American version. But still, these are great representations. Almost perfect representation aside from the upscaling size for Gaira, and you can't find any better, you know what I'm saying, currently right now for the Gargantuas. And go on eBay right now and grab you this set, and you will not be disappointed with the Billiken 30mm versions of Sanda and Gaira, the Gargantuas from War of the Gargantuas. Yes, yes, yes. So that pretty much concludes my review of the Billiken 30mm model kits of both Sanda and Gaira, the Brown Gargantua and the Green Gargantua from the epic Kaiju deathmatch film, Frankenstein's Monster Sanda vs. Gaira, also known as the War of the Gargantuas. If you have any questions, comment down in the comment section. Hit on Facebook via Lesbian Channels. We'll definitely go from there. Yes, once again, great figures. And I as you notice, I've been thanking the person who painted these kits like 3 or 4 times during this video, because they deserve the ultimate credit and the ultimate recognition and acknowledgement for doing such an amazing job on these guys. And again, I don't know who you are, but if you're out there, if you're watching, this video is a thank you to you for doing what you did, because you did an amazing job on these guys. I really do appreciate it. And again, I've been like on a model kit shopping spree. You know, I got the KOC 1964 last year. I got these late last year. And stay tuned for the next video, because we're going to be covering another great model kit. A guy coincidentally turning 60 years old this year. Yes, I'm talking about the KOC 40cm resin kit of the 1962 Godzilla, the King Goji from King Kong vs. Godzilla. So that will be the next video after this video. So please stay tuned for that. And at the time of this recording, I'm also getting 3 more model kits. 3 more model kits. I won't tell you who they are, but I will give you a hint. 2 of them are Showa monsters or Showa characters, and 1 is a Millennium Series character. So please stay tuned for that. But again, these are great model kits. And then and again, if you're a huge fan of the Gargantuas and you don't have a set in your collection, go on eBay, grab you a set. If you can build them, paint them yourselves, do that too. If not, hit up one of our awesome artists on Facebook. They're not hard to find, and just let them know that you want them to build and paint these kits for you. And for a slight fee, I'm sure they will have no issue doing that. But again, if you're a huge fan of the film as well as the monsters themselves, you can't go wrong with this set right here. So ladies and gentlemen, I give to you finally the Billiken 30cm model kits of both Sanda and Gaira. Yes, the brown and green Kaiju brothers with anger management issues from Frankenstein's monster Sanda vs. Gaira, also known as the War of the Gargantuas. Yes, yes, yes. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see y'all again on this figure move review. All right, y'all take it easy.